Hello, this is Liane Ringham from Inside Story in Australia. We are saying good evening tonight. And I'm with Sarah Vickers from Inside Story, and our other authors are Liz Walker from Inside Story and Kasia Witten-Wansdorf from Nestle. Our topic is about refining ads with both clarity and precision. It involves a head-to-head comparison of qualitative research and EEG, or more specifically SST. So our topic is about the Allen's lollies, or Allen's sweets as they're known more generally, TVC, a highly acclaimed television commercial that won the Australian Effie Award, both the category award for sweets, or lollies, as we call them, and the Gold Effie, which is the overall big category of ads across all categories. And this was commissioned by Nestle with Inside Story and conducted with a photomatic. So it is the development research that was done before the final. I'm going to give you an introduction from our client, Kasia, and these are her words, which unfortunately she wasn't able to attend this evening, but has put down her thoughts rather carefully. Her thoughts are, Nestle Australia sought to develop on a new positioning for Allen's, and Allen's is Australia's most loved lolly brand. The brand and communication was developed after extensive qualitative research and ethnographic research. Kasia stressed that this was based on a lot of research, more than ever that they've done in recent times. We understand that we needed to communicate Allen's at a very deep and emotional level. To optimize our communication, we were looking for an approach that would tap primarily into emotional response. And many of the communications research approaches are too rational, and we believed would have failed to give a clear understanding of the emotional impact of the ad. So we chose this approach because its integrated methodology delivered a clear and precise understanding of the ad's emotional impact and, very importantly, the likely impact on future behaviour. So our approach and methodology. Very briefly, I'm going to outline this. We conducted an integrated methodology of SST and qualitative research. We used Neuroscience patented steady-state topography. Now, put simply, very simply, this is a specific technique sensitive to psychological processes based on electrical activity. It is, however, not raw EEG. It is adjusted in ways that are beyond what we can cover here. It provides a clear and precise gauge of the emotional impact of the ad and its likelihood of impacting future behaviour, and to also pinpoint with great precision the structural issues requiring refinement. Qualitative was used, and something we consider absolutely essential in the mix of things is to provide the clarity and understanding regarding the manner of consumers' responses in order to further refine the ad. The meaning behind the responses is what we're after, and to confirm the execution was on strategy.
Okay, so this is Sarah now. I'm going to take you through in a little bit more detail what we actually did and how it worked. So 50 purchasers were qualitatively recruited to our NeuroLab, and the brain electrical activity was recorded from a number of sites. And this is done while consumers viewed a photomatic of the Allen's ad, which was embedded in a typical programming with ad breaks, so akin to natural viewing. The neuro data was recorded in a time series analysis, and that shows a second-by-second live worm graph. Unfortunately, we're not able to show you those live worms and the live time series here today, but all of those are available, obviously, to our clients. And a number of diagnostic measures were reported, but memory encoding or implicit memory is the absolutely key measure for that. Memory encoding measures both detailed information and emotional or holistic impressions such as themes, brands or music which are entering the long-term memory. And this is important to understand. This is stored memory. It's not recall, so it's quite different from some of the techniques that we're used to seeing in research. Just to note, emotion is important, but it's not the end game. Emotion is what helps to open the door to memory. And the key neural metric is encoded memory. So this has been linked through peer-reviewed papers and published papers to future behavior, and therefore is extremely valid for clients to be using. And the benefit of this methodology is that it's both flexible and speedy, so in line with the needs of the creative process, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. So getting a little bit more into that solid-state technology and what it gives us, the solid-state topography, sorry. Now, unfortunately, as I said, we haven't been able to show you the live worm in this particular presentation, but you can see hopefully on your screens a static image of the trace. Just as a reminder for everyone who's familiar with testing advertising is that we know that all ads have a particular rhythm and a storyline. It's not a realistic expectation that an ad would continuously score high in terms of memory encoding through the whole course of the ad. So our aim as researchers is to understand and identify the peaks in memory encoding, whether that be the global or the emotional memory, which is shown on this particular chart in blue, or the memory for detail, which is shown here in red. And we're ensuring that these peaks are aligned with the key points of branding and brand messaging. It's been shown that a strong performance above that 0.7 line, which is shown again on the chart, at key points of branding is highly predictive of future positive behavior. And this is especially the case for detailed memory encoding, so that if detailed memory encoding is above 0.7, where the brand is prominent and fully integrated, we would expect to see a behavior change and ideally some sales results for our clients. So what we found on this particular chart then, and in this particular measure, we found a couple of things that I just wanted to highlight with you today. In the middle of the graph, you will see a point that is highlighted in the pale orange, and that highlights the point in the ad at which the doll, who is absolutely the central character to this ad, dispenses the bubbles, which then become sweets, and she blows the bubbles as in a childhood kind of way, and these become lollies, which then glow out to the audience and to the crowd that have gathered around her. And at this point, her purpose is revealed, and we've called that the aha moment. This is when the audience of the ad really understood what the purpose of the doll was. An emotional memory encoding peaked at this point at 0.8, which is a really strong response. It also included some branding. You can see there a little Allen's pack that she's carrying. But the question was whether branding could be strengthened, given the importance of this ad. Was there some way that the branding could be strengthened? At the end of the ad, we have the boy who is pulling the snake, the jelly snake, and the branding element as well. And at this stage, you can see that the memory for detail really peaks very strongly. And this is also ideal because this is when the detailed information relating to the brand is often best processed. But again, the question was raised, could that moment also be extended, given its direct link to future behavior?
Okay, back to me, Liane. Among all the other supporting diagnostics in this exercise, the approach withdrawal response was one that was found to be most helpful in shedding further light. Approach withdrawal may seem a little bit like and dislike, but it's really much more visceral than that tendency to go forward things or to recoil from them. Note in this trace the strong withdrawal associated with the window scene up front, and also note the strong approach at the closure with the boy stretching the snake and the end branding. Qualitative was required to fully understand the nature of these two responses. So, summarising the EEG at this point, the EEG showed with pinpoint accuracy two critical points in the structure of the ad were identified by memory encoding scores with direct implications for future behaviour and possible future opportunities to extend these two key branding and brand messaging opportunities, which we'll tell you about in a minute. Also highlighted were some structural difficulties requiring clarity and understanding in the qualitative research, the window scene being key. Okay, so let's go into the qualitative, because we're really trying to understand the value of the qualitative in this process, in this wonderful head-to-head comparison here. The qualitative research was able to confirm that the execution was on strategy. And remember that Nestlé had spent a lot of time getting that strategy right in a very competitive marketplace. The quality enabled the drill down into the structure of the ad on a frame-by-frame basis to clarify and understand the meaning behind the consumer responses, to give detailed directions for refinement and finessing in the final production. The qualitative employed was a fairly standard qualitative step-by-step process of evaluation and optimization through open-ended exploration. In addition to this, we used individual questionnaires to confirm communication strategy, and other diagnostics were confirmed as part of the group discussions. The outcome was the ad was performing strongly in terms of meeting its strategic requirements. We were very sure about that. What we'll show you now are three key scenes, and these best explain, I think, both the role of the qualitative research and, importantly, an area where qualitative research wasn't able to get to, but really highlighted the value of the SST. The qualitative employed the usual steps of evaluating and optimizing the ad, as we said. We have here aligned two scenes, we have here identified two scenes where both the the SST, and the qualitative were in alignment. They both identified that there were issues up front with the marionette at the window, and they both identified the compelling appeal of the stretch of the snake at the end. However, there was one scene, and that we really couldn't predict in the qualitative, not that it came out negative or otherwise, and also the management team at the end, we all said we really wouldn't have thought that this scene was so powerful and so integral to the effectiveness of the ad. Its key importance in memorability and also the creative apex of the ad was shown so marvellously through the memory trace. So if we compare the qualitative and the neuro, first of all, let's have a look at the marionette at the window. The qualitative found a disconnect between the girl and the marionette in the photomatic. Well, just imagine the wonderment of childhood where the little doll that she plays with suddenly becomes a big giant, and the wonder that happens in childhood where the relative sizes of real-life things switch around. There's great potential in this idea. However, as we saw from the neuro, the decline and the withdrawal response that happened at the early start, there was a need to build a stronger connection between the girl and the marionette, and that connection was achieved in the final through the marionette doll winking back. In the qualitative, it revealed that the doll was rather scary and rather remote and seemed a little bit sinister, and this was something a little bit below consciousness but still was achievable through the qualitative research, and the qualitative gave us great scope for guidance.
Okay, and then the other two scenes that Liane mentioned previously briefly, the marionette dispersing and dispensing the bubbles that then become sweets. Again, this was a scene that wasn't particularly identified as significant in the qualitative, but it really, for us, confirmed the importance of both methodologies and how complementary they can be. The qualitative really added to the understanding that we'd already got from the neuro about the nature of that aha moment. The fact that the interest and the memorability peaked at that point was down to the fact that this was about the reveal of her purpose. And it really gave a sense of intrigue and value while also maximising the brand exposure. And so from the final results, we were able to make recommendations which led to an extended time period for handing the Allen's pack up to the marionette herself. So obviously building the intrigue there, and also building the brand exposure by making it so integral to the action in the ad. And the final scene that we showed previously as having come through as being critical in building memory encoding via the neuro measure, which also came through strongly from the qualitative stage, was that scene at the end where the boy stretches the snake and then we get the branding Allen smiles. And the qualitative really highlighted for us that that snake stretching was absolutely iconic. It's deeply rooted in so many of our own positive childhood memories of jelly sweets and jellies and snakes. And that whole stretching sequence is so fundamental to who we are and what we've experienced in our lives. And so again in the final results, this scene was extended. The boy was placed on top of his father's shoulders rather than sitting on a bench as he was in the photomatic. And that just really enhanced those cues to childhood memories and the childhood affinity that parents feel with the Allen's brand in Australia. And so overall what we're really highlighting, what we're trying to highlight here is that each methodology contributed quite different and extremely valuable information. We've talked quite extensively about 3 key scenes and how they performed in similar ways in some cases between the SST and the qualitative, and in other ways that the 2 different techniques really highlighted different elements and different strengths of each of the scenes and therefore different opportunities. So in conclusion, we'd like to take you through kind of the overall findings that we found from the study and how these 2 methodologies really resulted for us in a highly sensitive diagnostic tool which gave very clear understanding of the emotional impact of the ad and the ad's likely impact on future behaviour. It also importantly gave very clear and precise directions for refinement and optimisation. And the ad agency involved in this study, which was JWT, found that the clarity and precision of the directions were so easy to implement. The quote from the agency verbatim was, "Your recommendations and directions were so clear and easy for us to follow." And quite clearly then the outcome that the client saw as a result was very positive indeed. And again we started off with a quote from Kasia, our client, and we would end up with a final quote from her as well. So quoting directly again from the client herself, Kasia said, "The ad, which was anchored in a real human truth and developed by JWT, was outstanding and highly memorable. It strongly tapped into the consumer's own emotional relationship with the Allen's brand, the relationship mostly formed in childhood. And the commercial results were outstanding. But what's more, we received an unprecedented amount of calls through our Nestlé consumer line with consumers keen to relay just how the ad had touched them emotionally and personally. And Ellie continues to drive more happy memories and smiles and is now in stage 2 of comms development." And just the final slide that we'd like to leave you with is, I suppose, the gold star for the client, from the client's point of view, which is the actual business results. And these have been published through entry to the Australian Effie Awards, which is our Advertising Effectiveness Awards, where this particular ad won the top prize for all advertising in Australia in 2010. And you can just see there some of the excellent sales results that the brand experienced as a result of this particular ad. And I'm sure we'd all agree that any grocery client would be thrilled to see those sorts of sales figures. Thank you for that, and we look forward to any questions that you may have.